What's the latest news on cap and trade, Bill? That's today's question on The Economist's Militia. Energy policy in the United States pays fealty to the environmental movement, lately in the form of some sort of cap-and-trade program. The latest evolution of cap-and-trade is House Resolution 2454, the American Clean Energy and Security Act of 2009. So what is cap-and-trade, and is it a good thing? Cap-and-trade is a program that sets a ceiling for what environmentalists call carbon emissions, the theory being that carbon dioxide from manufacturing increases the mean temperature of the planet. That theory, called global warming, is an area of environmental science well outside my professional experience. In researching for this episode, I looked for a simple and definitive answer of how carbon dioxide warms the air. Just like I encourage you to look for answers, I went looking for answers about global warming. The answers I got were that it's junk science. It is clearly understood that a series of gases in the upper atmosphere reflect heat, and that carbon dioxide is one of those gases. The relative impact of the gases on mean temperature is something I could never find decent experimental data about, and that's the disturbing part. Science is experimentation. Sure, theory is vital to progress, but theory must be tested in order to have credibility. I was unable to find experimental data on how changes in the gases change mean temperature, which leads me to the conclusion that global warming's very basis is uncertain. I also researched information from Stanford, NOAA, the National Academy of Sciences, and Nature magazine. I wasn't looking for information about consensus or a picture of Al Gore's Nobel Prize. I was simply looking for the base of the argument. I couldn't find it. I also read the more than 1,000 emails from the University of East Anglia, recently released by the Wall Street Journal, which showed data manipulation and stonewalling of skeptics. It's not a pleasant look into research politics, but anyone who thinks there's no political pressure inside science research is living with blinders on. Still, their exchanges were at the fringe of ethical, and that's never a good place to be. Manipulating data, changing when emails were exchanged, and trying to hide information they feel is unflattering to their conclusions makes them sound like the Watergate burglars. I wonder if any of them can hold their arm over a lit candle. The research wasn't all dry and boring. I also watched the Penn and Teller bullshit episode on global warming. That was the one episode in their entire show where they seemed ashamed to call bullshit, and yet that was clearly their conclusion. One funny piece I read was written by Michael Crichton, the famous author who died in 2005. Crichton, an anthropologist by training, made the claim that environmentalism was a religious movement, and based much of his assertion on the reaction that environmentalists have to people who question the tenets of global warming. Well, I'm Catholic, which is plenty of religion for me. So, if global warming's foundation is made of ether, how does cap and trade get all the way to Capitol Hill? Remember, cap is a ceiling that each industry, each business, or each individual has to live under. And before you emailed me to tell me that this isn't about individuals, remember I'm talking about the general premise, including the United Nations premise, which specifically mentions individuals. Well, trade is how the tax comes in. Someone has to set up a trading floor for those carbon credits, and that someone is, you guessed it, one of the financial firms the government bailed out last year. Goldman Sachs has a huge interest in running all the trading systems for carbon credits. And the tax? What happens when you exceed your cap? You buy credits from the government, and Goldman Sachs takes a cut of the trade. Whoever said the government couldn't tax the air we breathe? That the bill is based on pseudoscience that looks more like religion, that the tax burden will line the pockets of the people we were forced to bail out of the mortgage crisis, that the tax burden will force Americans to live different lives, that the entire fiasco will cripple entire industries is only the beginning. This is another bad program laid down like a stone tablet from Moses. We're forced to accept it or be branded as against the planet. The House passed 2454 on June 26th, and the sister bill is before the Senate now. The bill, Senate 1733, is called the Clean Energy Jobs and American Power Act. Stupid names. And this is sponsored by Senator 30 Days in Vietnam, 3-time Purple Heart winner John Kerry. Call your senator. Tell them what a lousy idea cap and trade is. Tell them to spend some time looking into the manipulation of research data that they rely on to make trillion-dollar decisions. If the Salahis merit hearings, so do these emails. Tell truth to power. Hear the real story. Think for yourself. Join the conversation at econmilitia.com. Take back your inalienable rights.